know what? There are a lot of performers who are salesmen, and there are a lot of salesmen who are performers, if you know what I mean. Welcome, bienvenue. Welcome once again to another live stream with my dear friend David Chernick and myself, the man with many purple hats. And we are talking, I guess, as old seasoned sales pros and looking out on the landscape of sales pros, what we have mixed amongst. And David reckons there's a correlation between being in sales and also just general entertainment. Am I right? So. Got that right?
I think so. It's an anecdotal observation. You know, I've not studied this, but it's an anecdotal observation. Quite often, when I'm talking to somebody else who's also, you know, advanced in sales, experienced in it, or massively into it, but it turns out that their side hustle or their hobbies revolve around something to do with entertaining.
Right.
You know, be it Amdram or music or some sort of creative entertainment kind of thing. And I don't know if any of our viewers will be surprised even to know that you're a musical entertainer and that I DJ big fat parties.
Yeah. And famously, we should bow and scrape because, in fact, David is now a internationally renowned celebrity.
As seen on TV.
Yeah, as seen on TV, in the words of a comedian. But the interesting thing is this, and I had a whole discussion about it the other day. All of life, in one way or another, is sales. All of it. We are always trying to either sell ideas to each other, or things to each other, or services to each other. That's kind of the whole of life. And but there appears to be a split between those who don't want to appear as selling ideas, concepts, things, whatever, and those that do. And the ones that don't sit in the back room coding or designing or whatever it is with an ing on the end. And the rest of us spend our time waving our arms around, creating fuss and talking about those very things that those our backroom friends have created for us to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, you used the words, interestingly, there, appear, talking about appearance. And I wonder whether in some sorts of lines of work, a fear of appearing will dictate the sorts of careers you're likely to go into.
Well, I was going to talk exactly about that, because
or even not being able to overcome the fear of appearing. I mean, for example, we do a lot of presentations and public speaking and being the front of an organization, something like that. So we have to be seen, we have to interact, we have to communicate with people. And David, so
were you always the kind of front guy? Has that always been your, ever since you were young, were you the one who made the most song and dance, pun intended, about a topic?
I was never, I don't think I was ever shy about coming forward. Yeah. And I was always sort of the party animal and, the lively one. That's for sure.
It's
not always a comfortable place for me, though. I mean, just because we have those sorts of characteristics, that doesn't necessarily mean it's a comfortable place, and neither does it mean it's coming from always a place of confidence. A lot of people who are performers, like stage actors, for example, will tell you that they get stage fright and they find it very, very uncomfortable being in front of everybody. I did a couple of plays in my time and I did well at it. I've got to say that when you appear on stage, that is a very special kind of being on show. And, when you've got bright lights shining and you can't see the audience, that is a help. When you can't see people, that definitely helps it. So it's definitely, you know, not something that is always the place where you would naturally want to be, just because you're entertaining. And I would say the same about sales as well.
Well, let me counter that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I spent the first, well, I spent not the first, I spent 19 years of my working life as a backroom boy, as a Cisco engineer.
Okay.
With a duffel coat on, a laptop, hiding in computer rooms that were sort of 15 to 17 degrees C.
And was that a comfortable place for you?
Yeah. When I was in a touring rock band at one point, which make me think, oh, overt, and I used to build a wall of drums between me and the audience. I used to hide.
Do you think your autism plays a part in that?
Well, what I've learned is the fear that I used to fear of being discovered, the imposter syndrome. That when they find out who I really am, I've managed to channel that feeling and turn it into a kind of buzz. It's kind of like a free dopamine hit. You know, fighting against the fear of being discovered, and then countering that with knowing that you want to be discovered. So it's those two things fighting each other. So it took me a long time to work out the coping strategy, which means I could turn it around from being something I ran from to almost being something I run into.
Got it.
It's like heights. I absolutely scared of heights, but I regularly put myself in a position where I can test that fear, because I've managed to persuade myself that I'm going to be safe, and I get a massive rush of fear.
Yeah, but it's the dopamine, isn't it? You know, that sort of stimulation.
I'm a dopaminer.
Yeah. So, so I think that is probably one of the common factors. One of the reasons why I sort of see this correlation is because it is a moment of truth. You know, with sales, it's the culmination. And we've talked about this before. It's the culmination of a lot of work of marketing and finding those leads and referrals and putting them in your funnel. And even before then, things like creating products and setting up an infrastructure so you're able to deliver services and goods to people. All of that effort, and then conversations with people who you've pre-selected to be in your target audience. And nurturing those and cultivating those relationships and finding out their needs and all of that kind of stuff. And at some point, you come to, as I think of it, the place where I live, the rectum end of that sales and marketing funnel. And it's a moment of truth. It's, okay, are we doing this or what? And everything culminates in that moment. All of the lack of preparation or good preparation you've done, shows its face and the results in that moment. And the same with performance as well, especially live performance, or what I do, DJing big fat parties. Lots of preparation. You've got to master your who's that jazz sax player, Parker, Charlie Parker. You would say something along the lines of master the music, master your instrument, and then forget all that and just play. And so and it's often one night only. If you're at a gig, you're performing, and the people who are there, it's one night only. It's, for good or bad, it's got to work at that moment.
This is going to sound weird, but I was DJing and performing at a party on Saturday, and there were only about 300 or 400 people. It was not massive, but it was bouncing. And I remember, maybe it was the drink in them. I'm teetotal, but I noticed I'm always there. I watch the normal, rational human beings turn into bug-eyed, bumbling messes. But anyway, I remember these guys coming up to us. I'm a musician, and did you know that you're really good? And I said to him, I've been performing since I was 6, and I'm 59 now. If I'm doing this and taking people's money, I'd better be bloody good.
That's a pressure, though, but you're good.
Well, no, but the point about it is, you have to rationalize. is the thing you're doing a hobby that you can pick it up and put down and don't feel like you need to be any more than just able to strum? Or is it something that is a driving force in your life that you're willing to put your neck on the line and say, this is worth X amount of money, and therefore when you pay me, you're getting a service that I have to enjoy providing? And you know, in a way, that's a kind of sales thing as well.
100%. I definitely agree. The feeling I get from delivering an amazing party is the same feeling for winning a deal.
Yeah.
So there's definitely a correlation there. And actually, just to tell people watching, you and we've got a gig coming up, an entertainment.
I know, I'm really quite excited actually. We've been talking
14th of June in Boreham Woods at the Wellington pub, very well known local pub for live music and DJing and stuff like that. So it's kind of like a one night only. It's a pub I know, and they've been asking me to do this for ages, but it took me a little while to get it booked in. But everybody be very welcome to come to that. But two sales guys performing music.
And what kind of music are we going to be going through, David? Because you're going to be a DJ for the night. My role is to play percussion. So what kind of a musical journey are we going on?
I play party music at parties where I've been hired to be their DJ. This is something different. My sort of musical home really is in rock and metal and indie and that kind of thing. So, I want to kind of major on that. Your musical home really is in various forms of house.
Yep.
Am I right?
Are you right?
Yeah. So it's going to be, it's going to be a mashup between you and I, very different characters, albeit both, you could say, charitably eccentric. And so it's going to be a mashup of you and I would say that we're going to do a mashup of the stuff that you're into and the stuff that I'm into. It's going to be music that people will recognize for sure. But, I like a bit of a combo of, deep house, something maybe a little bit trancey and, up your neck of the woods.
Absolutely.
And some, rock music and some flashing lights. See if we can get a haze machine in there.
Oh, my God.
Party.
Well, look, I want hands in the air, hopefully not very much caring. And let's see if we can get people off their feet. I know this is unusual for us to talk about music, but you know what? The fact that we're both performers, I think lends itself to making me a better salesperson. My focus when I'm performing is to try and interact with people and get them wanting to feel part of it. Yeah. And in many ways, the way I run any deals that I'm working on is very much checking in with them, making sure that they feel like there's a recognizable process, that which step we're on it. Are they getting the same positive vibes from the whole thing? Because you want them coming out of the whole sales process where they've signed on the dotted line and paid the money. At that point, not apprehensive, but excited. That's what you want them.
Yeah, absolutely. So there are definitely some major overlaps in the competencies. I mean, I always think for DJing, one of the main competencies there is being able to connect with people, tuning in to the people who you're partying with, being able to spot those little nuances in, the reaction to the music and to the vibe and to your personality and your interaction with them. So you can then sort of cultivate and nurture those waves of enjoyment and participation, respond to it and how they ebb and flow, and move it as well, have a degree of, I think of it as coaching when I'm in sales, but I'm really sort of coaching a crowd when, when I'm DJing for them, and being able to notice some of the lapses in energy, that little pocket over in the far corner where, Auntie Mildred in her wheelchair she's moving, but she's not there. So, I want to bring her into it where, the teenage boys are really, really self-conscious and, you want them to be able to chill and relax and just to be themselves and let rip and mosh, how to connect with them, people of all different ilks. And that's very core competence of sales. And people have tried over the years all sorts of different ways to, develop those skills, from things like NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, to help them try and connect, to, practice with scripts and role plays and all sorts of things. But ultimately, we want to be tuning in. And it's very much like, I keep my little notepad and like my mate's natty artwork on the front. And the only things really I'm writing down are the words that people say to me, and that's part of how I connect with them. I demonstrate to them that I have heard what they've said, I've acknowledged what they've said, I've written it down, I can repeat it back to them word for word. And the same is very much true when you're DJing a gig or when you're performing music for a group of people. I say it, when you're on the stage acting, is that kind of connection and hearing your audience.
So summarize our position, David. If you're a performer, does that make you a good salesman?
I think that you definitely would have the minerals. If you're a good performer, chances are you'll be a good salesperson. If you're a good salesperson, chances are you'll be a good performer. There is a massive overlap in competencies, particularly in how you prepare for a gig and doing all of the background work, which is the main grind. It's where you spend most of your time, and then making those moments of truth really count.
Guys, once again, I thank anybody and all of you that have been listening. I can see there have been, it's worked, David. It's worked. I see there's been a bunch of people flickering or watching, and thank you very much for taking part in this. Very much enjoy working with David on these things, but we sometimes need a little bit of inspiration. When you come across either of us in your travels, please do tell us what you liked about the show, and also if you've got suggestions about things you'd like us to talk about, we welcome them as well.
I don't really look at the data, by the way, but I did see I did look it up, and in the last week, certainly on my LinkedIn, I've not looked on the other channels or Facebook or anything, but on the LinkedIn, I think there was something like 3,500 engagements, whatever that really means. You're the expert at that, but.
Well, engagement just means at some point they stopped on it. It doesn't mean they actually watched it for any length of time. Streams may be a bit lower, but 3,500 engagements. I remember looking at engagement when we first started, way back when, and we were getting 50, 60. Okay. So I would say we're reaching the audience. There just seems to be a propensity for people to be scared to actually put themselves forward and say things. I promise you, bite your head off, and we actually want the input so we can change direction. And
if anybody wants any help from either of us promoting their LinkedIn profiles, generating leads,
or finding out a better way of selling, or what things you need to do to achieve really brilliant, truthful sales funnels that actually convert, David's your man for that. Okay, so look, guys, I wish you all well. Have a wonderful weekend that's coming up, and of course, excellent mental health. Bye-bye now.
Ciao, ciao.